Yeah, I think if I look at the situational context, like I've been in a lot of complaint issues with police, and there I found that if you have a good complaint session where you do talk to each other, which looks a bit like mediation, because if you come out of it without a verdict either way, but you agree on something, I would much rather, and my society would much rather have a policeman that has known to have learned from such an experience, so you don't hide it, that you learn from such an experience, because the next time he is there, he is somebody that you can talk to, that is humane, and it's not as if the system doesn't make any mistakes, because anything that goes wrong will not be on the record, or it will be punished so harshly as if it is something exceptional. It's not. We are humans. We make mistakes. We do, you do, everybody does. So let's get them out into the open. Also, yeah, okay.
I just wanted to say that certainly with the police complaints that we dealt with, often it was a question of information or understanding how come something had happened. It wasn't necessarily that that the officer was at fault by any means. Often when the person who had lodged the complaint found out why and how it had happened, then they understood, and the matter just completely dissolved. So I don't want to make it seem that it's a one-way process.
Catherine, may I? Please?
If I might comment. Well, I find the conversation frustrating because I feel we're having the same conversation for the last decade. I think we're just looking for problems about why we can't go forward. I mean, if this was recommended in 2003, it was cabinet approved, the prison is in favour of it. Decisions have been made. About 50 prison officers who are professional social workers are trained mediators, ready to go. We now, at last, have a mediation board chair who's willing to listen and take this type of thing forward. So the board isn't the problem, and the prison isn't the problem. To make the connections, we need I suppose, the technologies or the processes that are housed in community mediation. And community mediation haven't budged. They want to be asked, I don't know what they really want, but if they could link, am I correct, Gordon, with the prison transformation unit, who is also in favour, then there is nothing stopping it starting. Prisons have the space, they have the mediators, they have the willingness. But for 12 years now, we've been stuck at not doing it and talking about why we can't do it. I was really hoping that the Director of Community Mediation would have been here today, because the simple things like the forms, the procedures, scheduling the mediations, rostering the mediators, upgrading the mediation training and all of that could have been done very simply by that government mediation agency service who has developed it all for itself and could pass it on to prisons in order to set up their own mediation centres.
And what I'd like to do is several things I'd like to do. I'd like to launch 4 papers. Okay, so that's just let you know what my agenda is. I speak for JusticeAction in Australia, and so I've been involved in ICOPA for the last 15 years. This is my 5th ICOPA.
The International Conference on Prison Abolition began in 1983.
No charge with a crime I did commit. I'm not angry that society calls me a misfit. Realizing how...
You know, it was legal for husbands to beat their wives, so long as they didn't beat them with a stick bigger than their thumb. That is what is known as the rule of thumb, that the husband had the right to beat the wife. Now that has been abolished.
We tend to overlook the fact that most of the world's citizens are well behaved. But we are not dealing with most of the world's citizens. We are dealing with the few who create problems. And that is why we have a challenge. our challenge is how do we deal with these few who, for whatever reasons, are offenders? Whether they are bombers before or whether they go back out as bombs, the point is the prison is full of people who are dysfunctional. How do we deal with them in the prison system? I understand that ICOPA is suggesting building more prisons and having longer sentences is not the solution because that only creates employment and business for some people. Therefore, you want to look at some other way to deal with the fact of the offenders who are there. The court system, the prison system, the police system, they are there. Your suggestion is let us look at ways and means of dealing with them. How? That is what I understand ICOPA is really talking about.
In the principle that we don't want to throw away any fetuses. But we're perfectly willing to throw away juveniles, young adults, and we're throwing them away by the thousands. The prisons are filled with throwaway people. We're trying to get rid of them. We don't want them.
And he said to me, son, and he was just about to retire, he said the things you see in the service that you would want to change may not happen in your lifetime. But certainly, the thing we know that is positive is that change will occur. So that the ideas and so on that we talk about now, we have to continue to talk about it, stimulate each other, bring out the best in each other with the discussion. And we know that somewhere along the line, we are privately believe that the changes we want to see will occur.
Now, whenever my colleagues and I go and visit people in immigration detention, one of the questions they often ask is, why am I in a prison? And the perverse thing is that sometimes being in the criminal justice system offers you more protections than being in the immigration system. You can only be held for a specified amount of time before being charged. Then you must be charged or released. These things do not necessarily apply in the immigration detention system.
My thesis today is fairly simple, and that is that penal abolition is the only proper response to the modern criminal justice system on the grounds that the latter, meaning the criminal justice system, in its philosophy, in its culture, and in its practice, is remarkably comparable to genocide.
I'm concerned that the system can't be reformed, but it's sort of like by having an old used car. We have to make a decision as to whether to spend a lot of money to try to get it fixed, even though it still may not work, or whether we ought to just throw it away and buy another car. And the same considerations are here now. We know we have a system that doesn't work. That's hardly worth arguing about. We shouldn't be discussing it at great length here. It doesn't work to do what people want it to do.